Hey everybody, it's McCall here, and today I want to talk to you guys about this little guy. So as soon as a newer version replaces a older version of anything, whether it be a camera body, a lens, a microphone, lights, or whatever, we automatically start asking ourselves, do we need this new thing and is it worth the upgrade? And I'm part of several different Facebook groups, you know, the A7R 2 user group, the Sony Alpha user group, and this and that. And I see that question thrown around a lot. Hey guys, I'm coming from an A7R. Should I upgrade to the A7R 2 or should I upgrade to the A7R 3? Or hey, I have the A7R 2. Is it worth upgrading to the A7R 3? And I just want to take a few minutes out of your time just to talk about the benefits of the R3 versus the price point of the R2 and see what you guys think. Alright, so the short answer for all of you impatient individuals out there, if money is no object and or you're in a scenario where you're upgrading from like a cell phone or from a point and shoot or a low-end crop sensor camera, you might as well go ahead and get the Sony a7R 3. Why? Because it addresses all the little issues that we had with the a7R 2. Now, does that mean that this is not a good camera? Absolutely not. Let me give you another scenario, and the most common one that I see on all these Facebook groups and all the questions and stuff I get all the time. A lot of people are jumping ship from Canon and Nikon over to the Sony Alpha line of cameras, right guys? And the most common scenario that I see is people saying, hey, I'm coming from a Canon 70D. I definitely want the A7R, but I don't know if I should go ahead and save a little money and get the A7R 2, or should I spend a little extra and get the A7R 3? What do you guys think? Well, what I usually tell these people is they gotta define what kind of photography they do. This has the same sensor as the A7R 3, therefore it's basically the same image quality. Now I do know that they get a little bit better ISO performance out of the newer A7R 3, as well as a little bit more dynamic range, but nonetheless it's a near identical image. So if you're into shooting landscapes, long exposure photography, anything that's just kind of like still, not moving, this is going to be a great camera. Now, even though the A7R 3 has the new pixel shift technology and apparently it's not a star eater or whatever in the sky, if you're not a professional and you're just kind of doing landscape and whatnot for fun, I would say you might as well just get the R2. So go ahead and save the money. It's still got a massive, whopping 42 megapixel count, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. Now, if you're coming from the 70D and you're like, hey, I'm really wanting to take my modeling and fashion photography to the next level, like someone who would probably use the eye autofocus a lot, I might recommend them going into the A7R 3. Now, coming from, like I said, just a scenario, like come from a 70D, I know what that camera is capable of. It takes amazing quality of images, but going to a 42 megapixel camera like this, and the dynamic range and the ISO performance that we're already getting out of the R2, I think it's already going to help them out a little bit as long as they get the lenses to support the R2. But even I do modeling photography almost primarily, and that eye autofocus in the A7R 3 and even the A9 for that matter, it's just absolutely phenomenal, and that actually increases my workflow because I don't have to worry as much about if this is nailing the eye autofocus or not. Now personally, the boat that I'm in, I actually don't have the A7R 3 yet, so you guys can contradict this video all you want, but I have touched it, played with it, seen it, and this and that, and I know all the specs about it, and obviously I've been an A7R 2 owner for like a little over 2.5 years at this point. I do plan on getting the A7R 3. Now, to be honest, I'm not a professional. I'm maybe a semi-pro at best, but I would really just consider myself like a real solid expert. Even though some of my images are probably on par with some of the pros, I don't do this for a living. Therefore, this A7R 2 would continue to be an amazing tool for me to use and get high quality image. But I do plan on getting the A7R 3 because I do get enough paid jobs to justify that extra $1,000 after selling this one, obviously. And at that point, I would have an upgraded camera that has slow motion video features that I could also use since I'm a hybrid shooter. as well as the enhanced autofocus features, you know, in low light scenarios, where this one I usually have to throw into manual focus. So I can justify that, and I'm okay with spending a little extra money to get a camera that's going to increase my productivity and workflow. But that's just a decision that you guys are going to have to make based off your line of photography. So I just kind of tapped into the video features a second ago. One of the reasons why I got the A7R II is because it did video about as well as it did photography stuff for me. I'm a hybrid shooter. I do both sides of the art form. And the video in this camera, like the 4K image that you're getting in the APS-C mode, is absolutely beautiful. But the problem with that is, especially whenever I do run and gun work, my 24-70 G Master is basically my go-to lens for everything. It's my workhorse. And whenever I just need one lens to go around, shooting in that 4K crop really kind of defeats the purpose of having a wide angle. So a 24 effectively becomes like a 36 millimeter, and the 70 becomes a 100 millimeter telephoto. And that's okay in some scenarios, but whenever I did the 4K at the full frame, it just, the image did not look the same. The ISO performance went way down. It had a lot of like aliasing and this and that. It just really wasn't that good of an image at the full frame mode. Now the A7R III addresses that. You can shoot in 4K at the full frame, the full readout of the sensor, or you can crop in at the APS-C mode. And while some people say that there's slight differences, I've seen the video of both and I really just cannot see it. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some slight stuff when you start pixel peeping, but if it's that close to being just as good at full frame as it is in APS-C, boom, I want that, because I now have the ability to get the extra reach in crop mode if I need it with the 24-70, or if I need that wider field of view, then I can go to the 24 millimeters on that G Master lens. Now also, the A7R II, the only high frame rate option it had was like the 720p at 120. And to be honest, I think I've only recorded that once or twice, and the quality was pretty awful, therefore I just never used it. But the A7R III now has 1080 at 120 frames per second. But the coolest thing about the 120p in the A7R III is the fact that up here on the dial, it actually has a slow and quick function. So you can set that to the 120 frames per second option to conform to a 60, 30, or 24 frame per second timeline. And that's pretty neat. And you also have the ability to just record 120p raw straight to the SD card, so that you have all that flexibility in post-production. I didn't want to dive into all of the features between the A7R II versus the 3, what's better. I really just kind of want to talk about the things that really got me excited, and those are the things that are going to ease my workload and make my life easier behind the camera. As you guys know, I'm crunching out YouTube videos, at least one video every week here, on top of photo shoots throughout the week and then video shoots on the weekend. I'm always behind the camera, and that A7R III is going to make my life easier. Therefore, I can't wait to get my hands on one personally. So I just want to thank you guys for watching this video. I hope I was able to help some of you guys that were on the fence between the A7R II versus the 3, which one you should probably get, or at least kind of guide you all in the right direction to show you the mindset that I have whenever I was comparing the two. So as always guys, if you enjoyed this video or the content I'm pushing out, be sure to like my videos and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not. One video is going to be uploaded every week, and I'm just trying to teach you guys everything that I wish I would have known coming up in this realm. So thank you all for watching this video. Get out there, start shooting, and have some fun. My name's McCall.